Everywhere we go, I and I will go there. He said, oh yes it's hard. So I can die and die and die and die. Melody. Come on, let us melody. Follow, Marcus, yeah, I can die and die and die and die. Follow. He never commit no crime. He always do right. So I can die and die and die. Follow, Marcus, yeah, I can die and die and die. Follow. Come on. Follow, Marcus, yeah, we could stay. Follow. He never disobey his grandmother. No. He always obey his grandfather. So I can't die. Follow him. Yes, we should. Follow. Come on, follow, Marcus, yeah, we stay. I can't die. Follow.
Yes, greetings everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unity and Solidarity TV. My name is Bakari Makaru, and I will be your host today as we get ready to engage in a very, very interesting and exciting topic. I've been looking forward to this discussion for a while, especially since I'm in the presence of two ladies who have been instrumental in bringing to life a very important cultural event not too long ago. But before I do that, I just want to share a few quick announcements, and then we are going to jump into the discussion. So today, June 13, 2024, marks 44 years since the tragic passing of the Honorable Dr. Walter A. Rodney, scholar, activist, Pan-Africanist, and one of the founding members of the Working People's Alliance. His most renowned works include How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, Grounding with My Brothers, History of the Guyanese Working People, the Russian Revolution, and Decolonial Marxism, amongst others. So, brothers and sisters, let us make it a point to read, study, and implement Rodney's ideas in our pursuit for justice and national liberation. The other announcement I wish to share is on Wednesday, June 12, 2024, our brothers and sisters on the island of St. Eustatius commemorated the 176th anniversary of the revolt initiated by free and enslaved Africans who gathered in front of the home of Lieutenant Governor Johannes de Veer to demand their freedom, increased rations, and more free hours. The group was led by Mr. Thomas Dupasoy, a free man of mixed descent, and enslaved African men by the name of Abraham, Joseph, Prince, Oscar, and Valentine. Also, I would like to extend an invitation to everyone, of course, to join us this coming Sunday, June 16th, as my guest, Mr. Renate Bryson, who is the General Secretary of the Pro Swaliga Foundation. He'll be joining us on that day to share his views and perspectives with regards to the potential impact the recently installed right-wing government in The Hague may very well have for St. Martin. So that, ladies and gentlemen, starts at 5 p.m. and of course, right here on Unity and Solidarity TV. Finally, brothers and sisters, let us remember the ongoing severe humanitarian crisis in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Sudan, the Haiti, and Palestine. And we must remember the prophetic words that as long as our brothers and sisters in the global south are not free, then none of us are free. So do what you can to inform yourself and use your voice to influence and speak on their behalf. And of course, and never give up, because we know that if our ancestors had given up, we probably would not be in the privileged position that we are in today. And I say privileged in quotation marks, of course. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I am joined by Miss Stephie and Miss Melissa Fleming. As I said earlier, two persons who are very instrumental in the recent performance that was done on the North Side not too long ago. So I want to say welcome to both of you and to thank you for accepting the invitation to be a guest on Unity and Solidarity today.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Excellent. So let's do some self-introduction. So I'll just start with you, Melissa, and then afterwards I'll ask Miss Stephie to tell us a bit about yourselves, your work in the community, and what inspired you to enter into the realm of culture, as it were.
Okay. My name, as we know, is Melissa Fleming. I am a teacher. I am a playwright. I'm a director and producer of my playwrights. I am also a poet, and I am a radio host personality on a cultural program called Sandbox Street. What motivated me to be part of culture? I can't really say where it started from. I just know that I was always someone that was very active, um, with anything that has to do with bringing forth knowledge and awareness about what's happening in my island, on my island, around my people. And whatever knowledge that I got, I just wanted everyone to be aware of it. I wanted us to be a part and take part in what our island history is all about and the culture that we cultivated here as a people. So, I just did not want to be the person who speak only about it. I wanted to be more actively, and without knowing it, I became more active than I thought. And here I am today, all of a sudden, well immersed into the world of culture. And it's a wonderful feeling, especially when you see the younger generation being fed off of things that they didn't know but can fascinatingly learn through the art of theater, the storytelling of our history.
I love that. I love that. And besides that, are you part of an organization as such?
Well,
And if so,
yes,
what is the name? Yeah.
I'm a part of the association called APREN, and APREN is basically it speaks to be cultural ambassadors along with other social and educational outreach. So we also promote literacy, and we also try to be a form of assistance to our community. So we have three aspects: culture, literacy, and social outreach. And I'm also one young poet by brand and by my artist profession. So those are the two umbrellas that I spearhead, and be a part of.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Miss Stephie.
So thanks again for having us today. I am Stephie. I was born and raised in Saint Martin, mostly on the French side of Saint Martin. I did study in Europe in Paris for 12 years before coming back a year ago. I was almost always involved in civil society. I've been involved in civil society for a long time. But my entry into culture was actually via history, the history of St. Martin to be more precise, because I studied social studies, among which history and all of that in Europe, and I developed great knowledge of a lot of European facts, and the imbalance with what I knew about my island was very much obvious to me, and so I decided to do my own research. Like everyone, I had time during COVID, and so I used this time to do some research on my Saint Martin history based on what's online, but also the books that I had been collected, because much more of a book collector than a book reader. But eventually,
I can't relate. I can't relate.
But yes, eventually I always read them at the right time. And so these books on Saint Martin, I read them at the right time when I was in the right mind space, I guess. And then I got like a timeline of St. Martin events that I decided to share on social media, and that became the Instagram and Facebook platform on this day in St. Martin, which shares dated events of the past of St. Martin. I don't call them history per se, because to me, things happen in the past, and the relevance that we will give it in the present determine if we consider it as history or not. Um,
Wow.
and so because anyone is born at a certain day, a certain time. The fact that this person is born at this day is because of what they have done in their life, that we decide that it's historical or not. And so it's the same thing for events. And so I just like share these events, and then it is for the community to decide whether we consider it as our history or if it's just an event of the past. And so, because people saw that I had this interest in history, I got different opportunities to speak about it, to share about it on social media, because I guess I understood that to bring people to books, or to longer material, more complex material, they needed entryway. And that was also the case for the history of St. Martin. And so I multiplied these entryways. So first social media, then as I said, interventions in the media, like in the press or things like that. Then I did my first theatrical project. Initially, my idea was to do research and then give it to actors, and they would improv based on my research. So I would tell you, okay, this character is Kwashiba, which, by the way, existed. Kwashiba is a woman of the 19th century. She was an adult when Anguilla was emancipated, and not French or Dutch Saint Martin. And so people used to run away from Saint Martin to Anguilla. She was among these people. This is why she did it. This is how she did it. And so improv on it. And then I went to the financer, the investor, with this project, which was the tourism office, and they were like, "No, we needed to be more structured." So then I had to write monologues for these characters, and so it was my first time writing theater. It was a series of
Wow.
4 monologues, but to me it was just like research that I was gonna do, and then the actors were gonna do their magic. But there I was put in the shoe of a playwright, and so I actually enjoyed how gratifying it was to see your creation be embodied and be understood by an audience, because other art forms, their understanding by the audience takes more time, because if you write a book, there's a whole publication process. But if you write theater for a show, then you will see very quickly first how the actors understand what you've written, and also more or less quickly how the crowd reacts. And so it's also a very collaborative process, because of course, you have the stage director and production that really plays a role in bringing to life your piece of paper that you wrote. And so yeah, I really like this connection between history and theater. As you know, our history, many parts of our history is not written, and when it's written, it wasn't written by our people. And so to complete what isn't written, I use, of course, imagination, which I feel connects me to my people, because imagination and that process means what would have I done in their place, you know? And so it's a way for us to reappropriate ourselves with our history. And for that, I'm also very grateful to have theater as a medium. Besides that, I also do oral history through podcasts, meaning that I interview people who are older than me and who have known Saint Martin before I was born. They tell me about it, and I put it on a podcast in a podcast format. It's called Back Then Saint Martin of Yesterday, I think, yes. But if you type Back Then from Nancy's office, you will find it. And so Nancy's office is the name of my entity for all creative, cultural, historical projects. Nancy as referring to Anansi, the storytelling spider from the Ghanaian people, and not necessarily Ghana, but one of the people of Ghana. And so Anansi made its way to the Caribbean through our people, of course. And we find her in the expression Nancy story. So if I tell you one Nancy story you tell me, yeah, it means what crazy story you're telling me. But basically, what I did why I called my entity Nancy's office is because I am giving this storytelling, oral history spider a place to write our story and make it history. So that's the bridge
Okay.
between oral history, our stories being told, etc., etc. And as of recently, I'm also the treasurer for the Historical Society of St. Martin,
Oh,
which aims
nice.
at doing research in many archives and bringing history as objective as possible. St. Martin, the history of St. Martin to its people.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, your opening remarks alone has sparked a lot of questions. So I would advise you from now to tell your family that you might be on here a little longer than anticipated. All right. No, but I love it. So Melissa, tell me, how did you get involved in this particular project? You are mute, huh? Please unmute yourself.
Okay, so coincidentally, Stephie met me uh, way before we started doing projects because she had heard about me, I guess, via someone and what I do. And Stephie started collaborating with me for her scripts that she works on about our history. So once she reached out to me and she told me, "Listen, this is what I'm doing, and I need you on board to bring all of what I've written to vivid life and give it that body that it needs, so that the audience are able to tie in and able to digest, whatever it is that the message that is being conveyed." This is where I came in, and this is where I bring the life now to the script. I bring the elements. I shape it. I look for the actors. I look for the music. I try to delve as much as I can into the intricacies of what the storyline is trying to tell you. And it's basically, to take you as an audience on that journey. We were never there. It's not our story. And it's a delicate thing when you want to help people to understand someone else's story. And so that is the role I play. I play I'm like the violinist, I create that ambiance. I string you along. I complete you on the journey of what that message is. And it is a grueling task because now I have to try to get my actors to become those characters. It's exciting. It's very tedious work. It's meticulous work as well because these are people that are authentic people of the past that we are trying to portray. So it is very important that we try to get as much information and gather all that we can about those persons' lives and about the setting that they came from, because it's not the same of our setting of today. We are very modernized. We have luxuries. We have things that are at our fingertips, most of us, who has those opportunities. So to go back to that life and tell somebody, be a slave, you know to tell somebody, act like you were assaulted, to tell somebody, act like you're being traded, or tell someone, you're deprived, you're going to be oppressed, um you have to labor long, those type of things. It's not of now, even though we still say that we have the hang-ups of slavery, which is the mental slavery. We still have some opportunities to decide for ourselves, so we are not really completely there, nor are we completely, free still. But you want to still show the persons that, listen, our ancestors, what they went through, you know um if you're gonna convey this message, let's be as authentic, as genuine as possible. So that's where I come in. So in working with Stephie, we have already worked on different projects,
Okay.
not only about slavery, but the different aspects of our culture that
Mm.
we want to portray and get that whole understanding of, okay, how did we as a people make this culture that bind us together? How did we come together and decide, well, this is going to be engraved in what we're going to celebrate, and that is not this but that? How did these things came to play? So it's very important, uh getting to delve correctly into what Stephie is writing. I write too, but when I write, that's for me, for my productions, and before I would do the same as Stephie would do. Howsoever, it was such a breath of fresh air to see that that there's other people that you can collaborate with, and like-minded people, understanding what needs to be done, and in order to continue transmitting that generational, link, because we speak about what we want to do for our younger generation, but we only speak on it. We don't create those tangible experiences. We don't ensure our story is actually being told as it was foretold. So it was a breath of fresh air to have someone like Stephie to come in and do the same thing and carry it to more levels, and then to collaborate with me, and for us to just make it become not the wow factor, but to make it become the digestion, to give it its own voice.
All right.
Yeah.
Man, I love this. I really, because you all are speaking my language in every sense of the word, because within your opening remarks, I hear self reliance and self determination. Within your remarks, I hear a desire to control the narrative, and we control the image that is projected to the world. And within your remarks, I am hearing that taking of responsibility, you know, to make sure that these ideas, this worldview is preserved first and foremost, and then
Mm,
transferred to the next generation. And I mean, for that, I can only applaud. I can only applaud the initiative. You see, because
right.
many persons talk about it, but to take it from paper, right? and bring it into the world is a different kind of labor of love. You understand? And truly, truly a different type, because I can even, how long did it take in terms of the process? You know, weeks, days, months, years. How long did it take? I'm going to put it to you, Stephie. When the idea came to the point where it was like, it's go time. You know, tell us about that experience, because you know, and let me just say this: many a times in our society, we only see the finished product, and as a result, we don't appreciate the process. You understand? We don't appreciate the sacrifice. So please share with us that entire process.
Okay, so Melissa and I have worked on 3 projects for now. And 3 of them were, how do you call that in English? Like ordered. It
Okay,
meaning that we were requested by,
Contracted.
sorry,
Yeah, we were
contracted.
contracted.
Okay.
to bring forth this idea. And so, funnily enough, now more and more people tell me, "Hey, I have a story, but I don't know how you tell it. So I will tell you what's my story, and you will write it."
Oh,
But
really?
basically, what sometimes I am asked, but oftentimes because people know that I have this history part as well, they tell me, they ask from me a script on a story that hasn't been told. So the first step that I have to take is to do research. And because I was introduced to theater through history, I really take this research phase very, very seriously. I am very intentional in the way that I do research, books, but also people if necessary. Being very clear with myself on what are the aspects on which I'm gonna go with full imagination. What are the aspects on which I'm not gonna go with something that happened in Saint Martin, but something that happened in an island nearby.
Mm.
Because, sometimes someday I had to write a play where the person had children who were enslaved. And so I had to go into the research and look at what children who were enslaved were doing. Melissa mentioned it about training the actors. When you write theater on these topics, what I am gonna write, the actor is gonna have to repeat and replay various times. Sometimes people tell me, "Oh, but we don't see people like really suffering and the plays. You don't see like them getting beat up or things like that." But that means that at every rehearsal, this person will have to get beat up, and I don't want to make anyone go through that. Even though it's
Yeah.
happening, I am aware that like embodying a person that is going through difficult times can have a psychological effect on you. And on my side, even during the research phase, I have to think about this beating the most historically accurately as possible.
Mm.
It's not fun. It's not fun. But I take it very seriously. And so, you always write less than what you know. You always have to know more than what transcribes in the script. Um,
Correct.
and so once I have more than enough information, many things that I won't even use for the script, I then start imagining the story that could be told. And usually that doesn't take a lot of time because, as I said at the beginning, we are contracted. So there's a date at
Yes.
which we need to deliver. And so I do like my little retro planning. So if the show is at this date, then I need to give the text to Melissa at least at this date, and then
Hmm.
I need to write it to start writing it at least like for this time. And so my research
Yes.
and then so honestly, the longest I've had to do my research and give the text to Melissa must have been like 4 months.
Okay.
But it's more of an average of 3 months.
Okay. It's pretty
The
good. But that's
three
three
days.
to 4 months of intense research and planning, of
Yes,
course.
yes, it's
Okay.
not. Yeah, I'm deep in it, and that's all I'm reading. That's all I'm eating. That's yeah, that's all I'm
And
thinking of.
okay. And then tell me some of, if you can, tell us some of the books you consulted in preparing for this particular performance.
Well, for this one, I consulted one of my usual St. Martin books, which is St. Martin National Symbols, of course, because they
Excellent.
have a page on the main character that the collectivity required me to talk about, which was Inez Eliza Bailey Lewis, or Lewis Bailey, Bailey Lewis, because she was born a baby. And so they did have a passage on her, but it's like these short biographies. So
Mm,
I had a rough idea of what she had done, but not who she was. And this is TA,
mm,
so you have a lot of work to do on the people's personality. And
yes.
so then I had to know more about her. And so that's when I went into the family. And so I went and saw many people from the family to understand who she was as a person. And even so, what I did was that because I knew that she was the main character, but I also knew that she had a legacy, all the imagination or the risks that I took as a scriptwriter, I put it in other characters' mouths, because
Okay.
this is a person that is already seen to the society in a certain light. And even if someone who is not a family member tells me, "Oh, did you know that this and that?" Or even one family member says, "Oh, but she always also used to do that." If a variety of people haven't told me about this fact, I will not put it, I will not mention it, because then I will be maybe mentioning things that her descendants don't want to be mentioned. And so I have to
Correct.
also be respectful of that. And so with this project, it was kind of tricky uh, to with the imagination factor, because it was a play that was in the 1960s. So a lot of people were already alive or knew people who were alive in the 1960s. So I couldn't go around and say no craziness, because people were going to be like, this scene true, like that ain't happened,
Yeah.
that would never go so like that, and things like that. So when I work with Melissa, it's essential well for me to work with her, because I have this view of this is the truth, this is what, and so this vision can be very boring, and theater can
Mm,
be boring, drama cannot be boring. And so having someone else that can be like, okay, Sophie, like you have your truth, but this is a spectacle, and I will make it entertaining, because your truth needs to be heard and needs to grasp people attention, is like essential. Because
yeah.
if my script were to be told exactly as I wrote it, without the improv from the actors, without Melissa's stage direction and production, it would be very different, and it wouldn't
Mm,
the message wouldn't reach the people, because its presentation wouldn't be interesting, more or less.
okay. Okay. So tell me a bit more about the play. What was the objective? Is this the first time that you all have done a play of this nature, or were there others? What makes this play so special?
Mm,
Anybody can answer. Anybody can answer.
so I'm gonna answer by the story, by saying the story, and I will let Melissa say what makes it so special.
Okay, good.
So the story, so we were asked to do a play about Freetown, so St. Louis, a section of Rambo, Colombia, this area that is known as like the cradle of our like culture and history, basically oral history, and the cradle of our people. And so they specifically asked us to talk about Miss Nez, Tantan Nez, who was a cultural, known as a cultural activist, let's say, in this community. She passed away in 1992, and so then my choice was to place this play in the 1960s, because she was born in 1902, so it means that she was of a certain age, but still like vibrant enough to do things. Because we know that she was very active until at least the 80s. And so we see the life of Freetown during the 1960s, which is also considered as the last traditional period of St. Martin before modernization. So this play tells a story of continuation of cultural practices from the abolition of slavery in 1848 to the 1960s. It's a play about how our people continued their traditions, what are the values that they got from either the time of slavery or right after, values like resilience, strength, community, working together, solidarity, etc. And so it's also about, yes, our values as our people, where we got them from, and I think that's more or less what it's about. It's
Okay.
hard to say, really, to say it as a story, because honestly, it's a play where nothing happens. Nothing grandiose happens. It's a display of everyday life in the 19th,
Mm.
with an emphasis on the Panam dance.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. I see you want to jump in. Jump in, man.
Steffi, don't tell the people nothing was happening. Pretty
Everyday
much,
life.
my lovely Steffi said all what made it special. So I'm gonna just now bring it home now. Um, I want Steffi to first realize, I keep telling her whenever we're working together how important, her role is as the writer, and the beauty behind that imagination that is authentic and imaginary as well. To bring this message of what life was like after slavery and how the people were was no simple thing, because the life that was lived then is not the life that is lived now. uh those people worked hard. It's like, what we say, like, we ancestors died for we, and fought for the freedom that they didn't have, so that today we wouldn't have to work so hard, that today we wouldn't have to suffer so much. And yeah, that's the same message that those generations before did. They work so hard, they sweat so hard, they push, they build, they make St. Martin what St. Martin be, so that we, the descending generation, didn't have to work so hard. So that image, that time, that era that Steffi took us back to, is very important in that digestion that I was talking about. Because in that digestion, you saw that now you could tie into what the old people used to say: be a jack of all trade, but master of none. He a jack of all trade, but he's a master of none. No, you could relate to that, because this lady, Miss Nez, she was a midwife. Okay, she dealing with embalming. She used to cook for weddings, and on top of that, raising her grandchildren, making her family stay together. And that is what we people is about. Through the jollification, through the coming together, helping each other's, building each other, not leaving anybody behind. You need a helping hand, we there for that. It wasn't about a money story. It was about helping your brother. Helping your brother. And that was the story that Steffi painted. That she took you to a time when we people understood that after slavery, the work continue. We got to pick up the seam, shovel, and pick that we put on, and we got to build now we family. We got to build now we community. And this is how we culture came together and bind us. Because what people need to understand about our culture is what we as a people cultivate. What we say is we zone. And then we had to manifest back that through we stories to we children, but we didn't get that. So this is the specialness of taking our people, our younger generation, back to that timeline, to a timeline when we had to go fetch water with a pail when we had to fetch it from a well down so cross so, but either on the moho, wherever you had to go. That is that timeline that we didn't come from a timeline when we didn't have indoor plumbing, when we had outdoor plumbing, when we had to use pond mangle probably to clean the behind, them type of things.
Wait, hold on there, because you're using a lot of terms
Yes,
that might be unfamiliar
that's
to
what is it.
many,
Yeah,
right? And I know you're doing that intentionally because
intentionally.
you're forcing me to ask you what is gentrification, what is the name of that particular brochure that's made mention of. I know you're forcing me to do it, so I'm giving you a way.
Intentionally,
Yeah,
because
I'm giving you a way.
I in the same light, is bigging up my collab Stephie, because every time we work together, I love to make her know that I give you your flower for what you're doing, because I do what you do too, and I love when I don't have to do that and bring to life and bring to life to show people the story and the message. So I explained what jollification is. If you followed back, I said it was when our people came together and they helping each others. Okay, and that was what jollification was about. You needed your house bill. Everybody come together and we head over by Bakari, and the lady is gonna be outside cooking up a storm, and that's what we portrayed. We portrayed that even though we're telling the story of Miss Nez, we're showing you how as a community, how we bonded together. We're showing you that as a community, we realized that we needed to have a vision for our children. So in that essence, we understood that we have to make a link where we got to put down these cornerstones for our children to come, so that they too don't have to work so hard like we work, just like our parents did before, who fought for the freedom, so that today we won't be in chains, meaning those descendants were not in chains any longer, so that they made sure the children in chains, so they wouldn't have to be fighting for that fight. So our descendants before that work hard. They went to Curacao, Aruba, Alba to work, so that we today could have what we got today, which was the Industrial Revolution. Now, that along another story, we could say it was an advantage, and we could say it had some hang-ups that we are now ailing from today. Howsoever, we will call it work hard, so that we wouldn't have to work hard so much today that we can reap those benefits. So I said all those things intentionally to show you that what is written, once we give it life and we give it color, we make it vibrant, we make it out of the ordinary, the audience will gravitate, because now they're going to want to hear, they're going to want hot tongue, they're going to want to be quiet, and they're going to want to listen. They're going to want to get involved in something they never did had know about, because now you're making them realize, hey, they really them generation before work hard, so we don't got to work hard. So we story is special because it shows what bonded us as a people, what cultivated is forever rooted in us. It might be transferring itself in a different way today, but it still remain in us. But what we need to not do, like our ancestors from the past did, is take away that tangible history that is rezone. Continue preserving, and not only preserving, but giving the experience, so that it continues to live, and we continue to learn how to be better. So that's
Yes,
what
yes.
makes it special.
Let me continue on the point that Melissa was making, and that Bakari, you asked about the vocabulary. That was a word. What was the word that the words that people used to use to designate a place? I cannot be talking about, I don't know, Phillipsburg, and if people used to say Great Bay. I have to be careful about what I say. And so when I go and interview these older people, or these people who know more of the time that I'm researching on, they will tell me about places like Bacol or Tutawell. And so not only do I have to retain it, but I have to remember how they said it exactly. and maybe this person had a official name, but he was never called by his official name, so I can't use his official name in my play. And so it's not only retracing the, well, bringing back the facts, but also bringing back the habitus and the way that people used to act, that
The
people,
mannerisms and
yes, the
yes.
mannerisms, the vocabulary, all of that, and that requires time and dedication as well. And
But
just to on the story of the play, it is indeed a story of how people worked hard for us to have, well, also about their hope of us not having to work as hard as them.
mm,
But we link it to also the dream of the enslaved person. So the enslaved person in 1847, 48 dreamed for the person in the 1960s, and the person in the 1960s dreamed for us in 2020. But it's also
I
a
tell
story
you just now.
of the fact that, Melissa, you're not off. How the fact that us being free from slavery did not mean that we were now living in paradise. The fact that slavery was not the end of working hard and having to fight and having to work for your lives and not being in optimum conditions, and it was still hard. That's also the story that we're telling, because France and maybe other colonizing powers tend to say that they have brought freedom and that we should be grateful to them because they have been so good to us and all of that. And what we're saying is that the freedom that you have brought and that we have also contributed by bringing, by running away to Angola, by being, they said we were lazy, but we were not lazy. We were not being compliant to what they were asking, and so they called us lazy, but we were actually not participating. It was like silent striking, I believe, not laziness. All of that was also a way for us to obtain our freedom. And even the freedom that they gave us was not so great because we still had to work. And so that's where I was looking up a quote of Angela Davis that I really like, and that symbolizes this moment so much. It says, "The idea of freedom is inspiring, but what does it mean in a political sense? But wait, okay. The idea of freedom is inspiring, but what does it mean? If you are free in a political sense but have no food, what's that? The freedom to starve?" And that's exactly the position in which our ancestors were put when they were liberated from slavery. Yes, they were now not slaves anymore and they could go as they pleased, but they had to feed themselves. And so they got back to the plantation. Okay, so there are still this system that imposes us to choose the chains, even if they're not physical, they are still there because to be able to live on our own island, we need to participate, and participating means complying with something, certain things that limit our freedom. And so that's also the story that we're telling.
wow. That's beautiful. And you know what I like, what I'm wondering, because a number of strong terms were used. Resilience, jollification, and a few other values were expressed in your presentation, you know? And I can't help but wonder whether, in your opinion, have we strayed away from those values? And if we have, is that the reason why you thought that these ideas and reminding persons of where we come from is so important?
It depends of who you call we. Really depends.
Okay,
I agree.
okay.
And I also
Let's
want to
let's
interject and say
go.
that I don't believe we strayed away. Again,
Okay.
a key thing is what I said before. If you don't cultivate it, it won't grow. So I think that our mindsets just was focused on something else, and we thought we had time. And time has
Mm,
shown us that it's longer than twine.
mm.
So I would, at least if you finish her point there,
Okay,
and then
sure. Sure.
I gonna come back in.
All right.
I think that as Melissa mentioned, our people were busy on other things like working. I just explained, when you have material needs, all that concerns the growing of the spirit of your people gets to the back burner. And so this is also a tactic that is used to dilute our values, I believe. And so now that we, as the generation, let's say the grandchildren or the great grandchildren of those who had to work and be derailed from a more cultural living, etc. Now that we've advanced to a stage where we are able to bring some of our focus to that, we are just highlighting it. I think that in the middle, some people still did it. Huh? We're not like saviors or anything. You have people who continue these traditions because we're able to go to them, but they were not necessarily given the light that they deserved, and they were maybe isolated. And so we have to do a work not to reinvent, but just to, I feel like, highlight and convince more people, make it more generalized actually. Because currently I feel like some of our value system is at the margins because we are so exposed to so many different cultures, and by that I mean like westernized, the westernized world. Because when I say other culture, I would never mean the Caribbean culture, because our people is by essence a Caribbean people. I mean by that since the beginning of the 20th century, since the end of slavery, we have been traveling throughout the region to work, and so we are a people that have brought back to Saint Martin other Caribbean cultures for more than a century now. So I think that Saint Martin, as a people, we are a Caribbean culture. No other, I feel like, no other Caribbean people represent the Caribbean as a whole better than us, because Saint Martin culture is made of a lot of, because me, even though slight tangent, me, even though I can tell you that yes, steel pan is from Trinidad, I cannot say that it's not also from Saint Martin, because steel pan has been in Saint Martin since the 1940s maybe. And so how can I reject it as it not being also from Saint Martin? At some point we have to ask ourselves, when do we consider that a thing is also ours, and not just an import? Because it's all a patchwork to me. And so when I talk about other value systems, I mean from other parts of the world that are far more foreign and far more removed, and who don't share the same history. And because they don't share the same history, they don't share the same relation to the world and to the other, and how they relate to other people. And so I do think that we are currently still a very small society, but with a deficit in community mindedness, which was to me a very important element of our ancestors. The fact that we were together and involved in our community is something that I feel we should get back to, because as at the size of St. Martin, we are all able, I feel, to have an impact in St. Martin. If you live in Paris and New York, you're just one drop. If you live in St. Martin, the fact that you're a drop means that you cover more space because because it's small. So I really want that people for people to understand that they matter, their actions matter, good or bad, and that the more they act, the more the Saint Martin they would like to see will be, because they are powerful. They have the power to do stuff.
They are the main actors.
Yes, correct.
Mhm. Definitely. And just to add in, Stephie, you pause?
Yes.
Okay. So just to add into what Stephie is saying, when we look at the Caribbean on a whole, the Caribbean is a patchwork of culture. And this is why I made sure said that once we all decided to become the pillars of whichever island that we settle on, this is where now we cultivated what we decided is gonna bind us as a people, and this is where traditions come in, because traditions is what you have decided to make become your own. And in that tradition, we took the patchworks of the different elements of who we are as people who traveled through the slave trade, and we were influenced, everything that we were influenced by, including our originated um encoding, you know, we try to find a way to, how to say, preserve some semblance of it. When you look at our dance, they are not much different to each other, but they mean a different story to everyone. You know, in our Panam, it was the ability now to choose your partner, because that was taken from us, that was stripped from us. Panam is a love story on its own. It's a story of freedom. It's a story of finding your mate, choosing your way, your life is to go. The ability to be free and inhibited. You don't have to worry about, you know, anybody deciding for you what gonna be your truth. And that's our story, you know. And when you look at all of those things and you wonder, because there's always a talk about who is a Saint Martiner. And I always say the Saint Martiner are the people who remain to cultivate we story. There were people before us who did what they had to do, which was the indigenous people. And you have to pay homage and respect to those people because they were the original persons that were here. But after that, because of the influence, histories for us is influenced by many different factors that we want to go into, because there's a lot, you know, but we understand that our history is influenced. However, after that, like Steffi said, the life that took shape after that is what we cultivated and what we decided. Howsoever, we got a little bit disconnected, you know, because in St. Martin, you can see that they were, everybody did what they did as a community. It was a community mindedness. And somewhere along the line, we just diluted that, and we just broke away from that, in the sense of that fragmented part never found its way back, you know, 100. So the more we put pressure on our leaders to recognize that we need to stay bonded, we need to remember how hard our ancestors worked for us. It wasn't no picnic, you know, they worked hard, and we got to continue representing. And this is where I take it a step further, and I believe that a people who do not recognize the importance of their identity are people who are forever lost. Because if you have nothing to identify yourself with, you can nor be patriotic, nor be prideful, nor manifest any type of cultivation, neither any linkage to whoever you are trying to be, because the identity of what you originated it here as a St. Martiner could not continue shaping you. So you have nothing that you can connect yourself to. And this is where I play my role in the things that I do. Because in what I do, I want to show you that, hey, we have something to identify with, but we got to make sure now that we harness it and we pull it back in. It didn't disappear. It's right there. We just got to tap right back into it, and let's cultivate it back. So by collaborating with people like Stephie and the tourism offices and the culture department and all different multiple associations who do multiple tangible educational and awareness experiences, this is how we continue creating that effect. You know, it's not gonna come back 100, 1, 2, 3, but if we all do our part, like our generations before did, it's gonna do what it needs to do. We need to see our own history books. We need to see them. I don't only need to have a national symbol book. I don't only need to have a book here or there from well-renowned local artists, but I want to see in my curriculum St. Martin History 101. I want to pick up a St. Martin coloring book and see storyline teaching me something while I color in. You know, I want to see those type of things happening. It start, but now we need to make it happen more. And I think that that is where we cultivate that essence of the things that bind us together as a people, and hence why we must be showing that patriotic love and understanding and respect for the continuation of our traditions, which in turn becomes the important aspects of our culture.
And let me ask something, because I'm very happy
Add
with the
about
answer. You know, sorry, Stephie.
Yes, I wanted to add about
Sure.
the importance of preserving our culture. To me, um, things that motivate me, maybe it's a bit skeptic of my part, but the environmentalists say that with the water rising, you will a lot of land will disappear. St. Martin is in the Caribbean. St. Martin might disappear. Actually, they have models that show that in 2050, a lot of our coast will disappear if we don't change anything. And so my question is, like, in 2124, okay, when St. Martin will have disappeared, will there be no more St. Martiners? Or will our people will have regained enough of their culture and of their identity to exist without St. Martin having to exist? If the only pride that you have about who you are as a people is to say I from here, once you cannot show in the world where it's here, what are you then? How do you say who you are without this culture? Once you don't have, when you cannot, once you cannot attach it to a land. And then another reflection that goes to my mind is, if we had to put in a time capsule something about St. Martin culture, is it only a Johnny cake that we would put in that time capsule? What are our cultural elements that we are so proud of and that we can put in the time capsule for the future generations to open and discover and think of us as a people? What are these elements, and how are we working for them to be known by everyone? You know.
Exactly.
Yes, yes. I mean, I think those are very powerful points. One thing I can say though is that, we've lived abroad, we've traveled, and in our travels, or living abroad, it's always amazing to me the ability to spot a St. Martiner in the crowd. Okay, there's just something about them. There's something about us that we recognize in each other. It could be a facial expression. It could be our posture. It could be the way how we dress, how we express ourselves. You understand? It could be so many different things that is so unique, and I think that in itself is special. So to come back to the statement that you made, and I'm going to borrow from Mr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Prime Minister of Ghana, when he said that I am not African because I was born in Africa. I am African because Africa is born in me. And I can say the exact same thing. You see what I'm saying? So of course we can say, yes, we are linked physically to the land. All right. But at the same time, right, culture and experiences allows us to manifest, where exactly we are from. So I really appreciate that. I truly, and guess what? I also quote that very same study by Epic, who studied the rising sea levels and the potential impact it will have on our show. So I commend the family at Epic Foundation, for the wonderful work that they do. But I like the part when you talked about how the evolution of the culture. My question to you: when you were doing your research, speaking with the elders in our society, right? Did you come across any terms, phrases, names that you can say, hey, these are African in their origins, or these are African in their expressions? Because for those of us that study history, we would understand that our ancestors did not come to these shores empty handed. They came with ideas, they came with skills, they came with experiences. You see, they came with a worldview, albeit it was oppressed, right? But our culture still found a way to manifest itself in different areas of people activity. So again, my question, in your research, did you come across any of those indigenous African names, or ideas, or so forth?
So, and for this project, not necessarily, but for the one before, I've had, yes, they given me access to the civil registry of people who were born in Africa and who were then deported, transported, brought to Saint Martin,
Mm-hmm.
and their family names are still around. There's actually an Africa family in Saint Martin. And then this time around, one of the ancestors of Tantanese was Candice Bailey, and it was researched that this Candice Bailey was the first ancestor from Saint Martin, who was brought from Africa, and that she had, of
Okay.
course, another name, and so this was the given name. In terms of like phrases or words, I feel like to be able to recognize them, I would have to be more knowledgeable on how these cultures function. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, from my understanding is that um, our way of speaking, even though the words appear as English, our way of saying them are given to how to our body, how our body is structured, and how through our
Correct.
the words pass through, and also the structure of the sentences are African, so or from certain African people, or from the meeting between certain African people and our lands. So, like the way we structure our sentences, even though they appear as English words, the structure might be from African origin. But I wouldn't be able to pinpoint something. Of course, I've heard about the work of Rhoda Arundel, so this is through her work that I'm able to say that. It's true that certain pronunciations, I don't remember what it was, but certain times they say certain things, and it takes me a while to translate it to standardize English. So sometimes when I talk to older people, they like to tell me about Banaklawa, which was kind of like yogurt in the days. But it's an American who told me that, okay, this Banaklawa thing might be this in like American English. So sometimes it's more like that. It's not in this research. I didn't encounter any word in particular. No.
Okay, okay, that's good to know. I mean, I'm always fascinated with that, because Melissa raised a very good point. How did these components get baked into what became our culture? You understand what I'm saying? And
And in the Panam song, you have this illustration of what I was saying, English words, but African phrasing, because even the way it's actually, when they say Abby been a harem long time, Abby is not an English word actually.
mm,
So you do have certain elements if you listen to the Panam song, which makes you think these people talk in a way that is used to talk in a way that is very different from how we talk nowadays. Or the word bakra. Same, I don't know what bakra is, so but I know because of the song.
Okra is what they call the master.
Yes, but I mean, like, where does it come from?
What happens with slavery? And I love that because when it comes to language, I truly believe that you got to remember that our the people before us, our descendants, um, they were stripped of their language.
Mm,
So the language that they created was the language that they were able to gather from wherever they were at the time, and the longest. Okay, and this is my belief. I haven't done any study on the path we're gonna say now. My belief is that you can clearly see in the Caribbean that English, our way, is a highly dominating language that makes me to believe that a lot of the descendants were all together at one time and point at under a particular colonizing group. Hence why it is so strong. Okay. However, we know we were influenced, but I believe influence only can take shape depending on how long you are conditioned under it. Okay. If I am not under your dominion for a very long time, your influence over me will not be very high.
mm,
Okay. This is why it's very important if we want to discuss our language to really sit down and look at the mechanisms of the mechanics of all that came together, because you hear a lot of French and Spanish mixed in with the English, so that
yeah.
lets you to know where we were for how long, and then it became ours. So I believe that wherever the people were as slaves, if that is what they call the massa at that time, because you will hear some say massa and some will say bakra, but I got to understand the bakra was from here. Because in asking that same question, then they let me to know that's what they call the massa. Because Stephie was asking it one night while we were rehearsing, and happened so our dance instructor, who works along with someone else who did a thesis on the Panam, was able to tell us that Bakra meant massa as well. So Steffi's right. To answer such things, you would definitely need to deep how you say invest that time to
Mm,
really understand. Okay, these people where did they originated from, in order to be able to be speaking the way they speak, because they spoke the way they spoke, because you know why we were not educated, howsoever we had to learn the languages so that we could communicate still. So this is why I believe my understanding for the English aspect is that because of whoever they were under for the longest, why the English is so prevalent, you know, and if you were under French people long, you're gonna got broken Creole, which you see with the other islands. So wherever you were for the longest, and however long you was there and how you were communicating. So it's a very interesting thing to speak about. But as I always say, language is our form of communication, is what identifies us as a people. And without our language, we again strip away from our identity. And for some reason, we have a problem with our language. You know, we don't want to.
Are we ashamed of it?
I believe we are. I believe that we are ashamed of it because it reminds us of a bond that we don't want to be affiliated with. And we rather take up the other bond again that is keeping us shackled, because again, trauma. is trauma bonds. I believe these historical trauma bonds is what keeps us in line to a certain extent. Some of us as a people, while some of us, we just want to get away from that and continue cultivating what we decided to make as a people. So instead of holding on to the trauma bonds, we have to emancipate our people from these historical trauma bonds by making sure that we don't return to those things through bringing the awareness, and also where our people show their resilience, show their strength, show their community mindedness, bring a lot of that in to build our people with the confidence and the continued backbone that they need so that we can continue making that generational bridge so that we will see that in our children. We got to take that into to our hands for those things to manifest.
But
Can't
you
just
do realize, you do realize those values, because you're talking about communalism or social living, right? It goes directly against the prevailing system that we now have, which promotes rugged capitalism, rugged and extreme individualism, hyper competition, and so forth and so on. You do realize that. Do you agree with that observation?
Yes.
sorry, I didn't hear you good on the last part.
So based on what you just said, right?
Hmm.
The aim is to promote those values, those that social living, looking out for each other, group economics, for example, but that goes against the existing system that we have today, which promotes individualism, capitalism. It's all about me, and however you get yours. So can you imagine? Well, before I ask that, do you agree with that observation?
I agree that we are seeing that trying to, not trying to, it's actually there hinting itself and trying to manifest itself. Howsoever, I also observe that the same part that you just said, that group economics and stuff, I am seeing it within our Caribbean brothers and sisters. The talk is there, it's brewing, it's taking shape. I think like Stephie mentioned this way back in the discussion when she said that there's a diluting that is happening, and our Caribbean brothers and sisters have realized that we have played into the westernized way of thinking and allowed it to capitalize itself on us. The other day I said this thing, I believe I said that capitalism can also equals stupidity, because stupidity leads to capitalism. Like, if I just allow you to lead me around and feed me and whatever, and thinking that I can never exist outside of what you say, and I just have to stay in this box while you busy growing and expanding, then I just allowed stupidity to grow capitalism. Now, is there anything wrong with capitalism? It's debatable. Is it taking over? It was definitely raising its ugly head for quite a while. But what I love about people, and like Stephie said, and I'm gonna repeat again, people are resilient, okay? And people show their resilience when they need to survive. When you trap anyone in a corner, they're gonna partner with what they can relate to. You are not gonna partner with somebody who never went through the struggle, who don't understand the struggle. You're going to, now we understand that we've been struggling. Now we understand we don't need to struggle because we weren't struggling before, but for some reason we felt we need to struggle. And now we're understanding, but if I network with you the way I did through jollification, we all can make it. I use jollification intentionally to remind you what jollification means. It doesn't mean that I giving you a handout for nothing. It means that together we are networking. Look how we were done thinking futuristically. We were networking, Bakari, to grow ourselves individually and group. Somehow along the line, we allowed that very talk, what you say, to get into that and divorce us. So we are now on the understanding part that we were done there. We understood it. We just didn't put a name to it. We didn't talk economics. We didn't talk those things because remember, those things essentially did not begin with us. I cannot talk about a book that my people did not write. So in order for me to understand your book, I have to go and read your book so that I can incorporate it in my survival. And I think that is what we need to understand. It's not about being westernized, it's about understanding how to use that tool in today's time to continue doing that jollification, that networking. Because it's only together as a people we can unitedly grow forward for a common understanding. And this is the importance of these stories that we're telling. We are showing you that the reason we were resilient is because we understood the importance of working together rather than against each other. And we call that jollification. So it's time to bring back the jollification. Let me talk the language that we understand so that who outside that don't need to be in our conversation can remain outside, because at the end of the day, you need to separate who is here to grow you versus who is here to capitalize off of you.
Mhm.
And that's it.
On my point of view, I would say that I definitely see capitalism as something negative because to me it's always rooted in exploitation. And when it's not
Mm-hmm.
exploitation of our people, it's exploitation of other people in the world. Plus, as you put in your introductive remarks, the people of the Congo, of the Sudan, and of other places of the world. And so, as such, I will always see capitalism as a negative thing, but as Melissa said, something that we need to understand. And seeing the world, observing the world from the Caribbean is so rich because we get to be a part of it while also being at the periphery of it. And so we could get out of it because we're not in the center of it. We are at the periphery. Some of us think that we should get closer to the center of capitalism. Others think that we should not. And so we need to understand to use indeed because at the end of the day, the history, I think, of humanity is people trying to survive, and for that they need to have better living conditions. Better living conditions bring survival, and humanity wants to survive. And so I understand why capitalism works because it gives you a comfort, it gives you ease. Because let's not lie to ourselves, to a great part of the population, it's also comfortable to delegate some of our thinking power to someone else. It's comfortable to be able to escape in parties and ease and leisure, and not think about those things because capitalism will give you more than one place to party, more than one casino, more than one restaurant, of course, for other people to enjoy, people who come to the island to enjoy what we offer, but also us as our people, we feel like we have succeeded if we can enjoy the same amenities as the people of the outside. And that is how we get to participate to capitalism and feel like we get to enjoy this comfort and this entertainment, and then we our way of entertaining ourselves and to relating to each other is no longer the one of our ancestors, which would require delayed gratification, because then you have to work all day, you have to cook all day to have this good meal, because the foods of before, if you don't soak your cake, your fruits from now, you ain't gonna have a good fruit cake. So it takes time. And so we are in a age of quick pleasures,
Instant
everything,
gratification.
instant gratification. And so uh being once again able to observe and participate from the Caribbean, from St. Martin, allows you to have a critical point of view on all these things and choose uh, how and if you want to participate, to what degree. And I think that our work is participating in giving the people an alternative by looking at the past. I don't see the past as a place to live. I'm not a nostalgic person at all. I see it as a place where you go to take
Mm,
knowledge, you come back to live your present. I On my logo, you will see the symbol of Sankofa, which is from the Akan people,
Ghana, Akan, yes.
the and Ivory Coast, sorry, in the Adinkra symbols, which says exactly that. It is not wrong to go back to take something valuable, but you don't go back to stay behind. The symbol shows a bird that goes back to take an egg. An egg symbolizes the future. And so I really think that by relearning who we are, that is the way through which we will learn how to be and how to become as well.
And let me also add, when it comes to the Sankofa symbol, that it's the bird is looking backwards but moving forward,
Yes.
and that's very important because it signifies progress also,
Mhm.
you see. So I think that that's very important. Just to backpedal about the jollification, right? To me, jollification was a form of nation building. Okay, and the jollification took place on different realms, from the building of homes, taking care of each other's children, community policing. I had other one, even in our economics, where we actively supported one another. When we know that Miss Mary had a bakery, is because we are going to support Miss Mary, because we know the importance of keeping that dollar or that guilder or whatever the currency was circulating in our economy. Okay, and that's why to some extent, just after modernization, so I'm guessing 70s, 80s, when you had so many local businesses on St. Martin, okay, and true to form, true to the nature of capitalism, imperialism, once that started to happen and St. Martiners became more empowered to rule their own destiny, to own property, to build wealth, we saw the influx of other groups arriving. We can call them economic migrants or so forth and so on, but we saw an influx coming in, and that is part of some of the developments, because they brought with them their work ethic. They had access to capital, to resources, and so forth, and they were now able to compete and to some extent outcompeted, because their ice was colder, for example. And of course, we kind of have an idea what happened after that. Another example, because we were so open, right? We allowed everyone to come in, and we did not do a good enough job of protecting, let's call it, infant industries. So we know we have our small businesses and restaurants and so forth. I don't know if it was a wise policy to open up the economy and allow these businesses to compete directly with our moms and pops. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know if that was the wisest thing to do. I don't know if giving hotels and other ethnic groups so many tax breaks, at the expense of the local population. I don't know if that was the right thing to do. But the reason I bring this up, my sisters, is because had we remained committed to those values, to those experiences, especially decision makers, I don't think those developments would have happened as rapidly as they did. Because back then, we had no choice than to rely on one another. We knew instinctively that our destinies are interlinked, right? And they are bound together to the point where, and I love this saying, to the point where if your neighbor is not doing good for whatever reason, eventually it's going to happen to you. So what we would have done is make sure that the neighbor was good, you understand, in order to protect the integrity of the whole. You see? But things happen, things changed, the family changed, economics played a role, migration played a role, and of course we can't forget media and entertainment plays a role in shaping and influencing our values. So and to me, I would say, and this is my personal opinion, I have not seen the play. Okay, I have not seen the performance because just that day I had a number of meetings and I could not pull away. Because the intention was to go and see it. So I am hoping that it was recorded, right? I am hoping, and if it was recorded, right, I would like to know how much I can purchase a copy for, right? Yes. I would love to know that because, and I mean, you can tell me yes or no, and it's not a problem, because I would love to host a movie night to show that movie to the people in my neighborhood. You understand? Especially for those of us who were not able to go, I am hoping that in the future that we can do something like that. Okay, and not to take over the show, right? But as I told you, this is something close to my heart. As I stand here before you, I always attach greater significance, right, to the emancipation of the northern side versus the southern side, because it was a result of what happened on that side of the island. And of course, news spread. I don't know how they do it, I do not know how the news had spread so fast. They had Twitter, they had Facebook, they had the newspapers, but the news fled. And as a result of that inspiration, our family from the South went to the North and bringing the plantation economy to its knees. Okay? And then years after the plantation, the slave makers on this side had to beg the Dutch government and beg the king to do something. So the Emancipation Day thing over here about the proclamation, it was not a proclamation, it was an admission of defeat. That's what it was. You see, because of the courageous stand started from Diamond 26 and the family in Colasac and so forth and so on that disrupted the system. You see, and that's why too, if I may be so bold, I think really and truly, May 28th, is it? May 28th, correct? That should be a national holiday for both sides, for the entire island. For the entire island, not just one.
The time and the energy, I would be pushing this idea, in which I truly believe, but I just don't have the time and energy for it, that the month of June should be actually the month of celebrating our ancestors, our enslaved ancestors, because you have May 28th and July 1st, that, and in between you have the month of June. And in June 1848, a lot of stuff happened on the southern side. So
Okay.
I do think that the month of June should be the month of emancipations, of the month of liberty, of freedom, where
And who do you think should put this process in motion?
no one in particular. The civil society is more than able to do it. As I told you, like, our people is capable and able, and so we just have to. The reason why I'm telling you I'm not gonna do it is that Melissa does a lot of things, Stephie does a lot of things, and usually it's people who already do something that do many things. And so that's why I'm telling you, I just want more of my people to be involved. It's not normal that when we go to cultural events, it's always the same person. We
People,
need
yeah,
to be always the same person, but let's be like 2000, you know?
yeah. And I agree. I am one thing I would have to say. I know my colleague Stephie, I got interject there, try for anything. Unfortunately, it's always people like you and I, Stephie, that find ourselves at the helm of such movements. Why I say that? Because look at the unity flag, you know. Um, it took Lasana Sekou, it took Daniela. Lasana Sekou
Decades.
was the first, you know, who came up with this thought, and then he brought in people like Daniela Jeffrey and Fabian Badijo and Rhoda Arundel and all of these different Shuja, everybody. And it was those people who were part of other movement and other activism, you know. So hence why I said to you, Bakari, earlier that I'm a person that, even though I say I ain't gonna put my foot in it, you know, some kind of house somewhere down the road, knowing myself,
You know the
because
way
I
Melissa,
your
even
foot
if
your toe first my toe gonna go first
still,
my toe gonna go in, and then, you know, eventually my foot gonna reach somewhere. Because I feel that you know, like when you know better, you just feel the urge to just,
yes.
you gotta do better.
Even
It's like a
when it comes,
force.
I will still go. I'm complaining today, but I will still go because I'm
Yeah, that's, I can
alone.
relate. I can
So
relate to what Steffi's saying, because we will complain, but we know that at the end of the day, if we don't do it, who we waiting? I'm not gonna say who gonna do it first. I'm gonna say who we waiting on, who's supposed to do it. You know what I mean? So I don't complain because it's my job to complain still too. However, I do feel that it is necessary to be necessarily done. What I also would like to say is that when I go back again to identity, because I am more of a person that who who knows themselves is because you're able to identify yourself. And I always believe in that. If you don't have an ability to identify who's your mother and who's your father, you're not kind of, you're lost. So if you're living on an island and your only concern is what the island could bring you, but not what you as a people work towards to make the island be for you, then you don't have an identity. Then you don't understand. You did not understand the objective, and you couldn't do the assignment. And those things happens when we do not have leaders that are we have leaders that are nearsighted, because you only seeing what's directly in front of you. But you need your people to remind you. You need your people to be like in a union, you know? You need your brothers and your sisters. You need your members to give you that strength. Same thing with your country. If you are falling to the wayside, your brother's supposed to be there to catch you and stabilize you. And I think that we got so caught up in the, as you said, the capitalism mindset that was brought into play and has been into play way before us, just in different forms under different names. And what I want people to understand is that what we talking about ain't nothing new. Um, as we know, history is a repetition of itself. And that's what I told you. Even though capitalism is rising its head all the time and making you believe that in order for you to succeed, you got to be like an epiphyte. You know the epiphytes? You got to be like
No,
a
I don't
plant
know.
that drains another plant for its own life
Okay, so like a
support.
parasite.
Ain't killing you, but it leeching on you. Okay?
Okay.
And we allow capitalism to be our epiphyte because it needs us. It ain't killing us, but it leeching on to us and making us think that oh, this is the way it is and this is the way it gotta be. But we know better. But because we want, like Steffi said, this the generations that worked hard for us, so now we don't think we gotta continue working hard. You gotta continue working hard to even maintain what you have now, you know. And because we don't have that mindset, we get sucked in, and when we get sucked in, that's where now we need a transfusion all the time. That transfusion is more dilution of self. And this is where identity plays a role. All of a sudden, people questioning identity straight. Why? Why are you questioning identity? How come all of a sudden now you are concerned with who you are? And if you're from here and where you're from and who belong here and who just come to be here. How come all of a sudden, you know why? Because now you just realize you were being leached on like an epiphyte. You just realize that you did not identify with your assignment. So now, we supposed to point fingers at each other. We're supposed to stabilize each other. And I think that the best note to take from this lesson is that through everything in life, we networked. We realized the importance of working together, that commonality. And that commonality is what got us out of slavery. That commonality is what got us to build our communities. And that commonality going to return again. Because in that bucket of crab mentality, they're going to be someone that is not a crab, but a bird, who going to go out, check to see where the water be, and see where dry land be, and gonna come back and take us where we need to go. So that's some of the optimism side of my identity.
Let me add also to that list was that at that particular time we knew who and what the enemy is or was. Today we seem to be grappling with that particular question. And I think the moment we understand who or what the enemy is, we are already halfway there. I think that's my humble contribution.
I think we know, but we just have the veil over our eyes. We know. The answer is clear. I would tell it to you, but then what fun would that be?
The suspense. The suspense. The suspense.
But we all know who the enemy is.
Yeah.
Okay? Within identity, look for self.
Yeah.
I think I tell it to you.
Yeah. I hear you. Loud. You speak in my language. You speak in my language. But tell me something. Just to go back to the play. Tell me something about the reactions from the audience. Tell me who participated in the play. Men, women, children, from here, not from here, tall, short. Who was involved and how did you get them to be part of it?
That's Melissa's part.
Okay,
good.
I could answer that part. And then Stephie will have to tell you the reaction because there now, unfortunately, I was in the background making sure what had to happen happened. We had a mixed cast, meaning that not only did we have actors, but we had dancers as well.
Okay.
And I always believe that in any event, especially when we are speaking about historical facts and elements of history, I love everyone to learn it, even if you are not going to be the one per se portraying it. But I still feel that you need to learn this and you need to learn how it go. Like the Panam dance, for example, although all the actors were not partaking in the dance, I felt it was necessary that they needed to learn it anyhow. And I tell them, when you come around me, it's a learning experience. It's an eye-opening experience. It's an awakening. So if you come around Bakari, for example, and you were in it, and you're going to tell me, but Melissa, I'm not a dancer. And I go, Bakari, you're not a dancer. But you're going to be a dancer tonight. That's how I talk to you,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
and then I give you that, because you can only understand that struggle, that reality, when you experience it for yourself. You can't come and tell somebody how they got to keep the message going and Panam is we story, pung up your chest when you can't even do brim, shoot, when you can't even do the
basics.
symbols and the actions, you can't even do them, but you're talking. Come on, you gotta experience it. Even if you're not going to be the one portraying it, you got to experience it. So to speak about the actors, I will start first with the dance instructor. In anything that I do, I believe in giving the best. And I'm not a dancer as profession, but I know what a good dance look like. And I can know if you're off key too with the dance, just because of being involved in the art world and
Yes.
sitting in on different things. But however, if I'm gonna do something that my people is gonna be looking at, I want it to be to a certain caliber. Now we don't have on the whole island a pocket of dancers, so it means that you're gonna get a mix of um, professionals with amateurs. So you imagine the grueling and the drilling and just a little bit of weeks that you have to go out there and do what you have to do. So Rudy, which is Rudolph Davis, he is the dance instructor who choreographed the dances that we needed as well, and he worked intentionally with everyone while he is choreographing the dance. Granted, I told you I'm not a dance instructor.
Yeah.
However, I know what I'm looking for, and I know the emotion that I'm trying to draw out. So from time to time, I would be in there, and getting behind of the dancers and telling them what I want, because I don't want it to look rehearsed. Yeah, anybody could get up as a professional and do a professional dance. You just look like you're doing a professional dance. I want to see the emotion. I want to see the struggle. I want you to move me. Your body is what's supposed to talk to me and tell me a story. So that was in its essence work. So for the persons in that, we have
not only the body,
Anastasia.
also their faces.
Sorry?
Not only their body, also their faces.
Exactly,
Their
yes,
face,
yes.
because when you perform as a dancer, oftentimes you are told to smile.
Yes.
We are telling hard stories. You cannot be joyful.
I didn't care for your smile. At that
No.
time, I did not need your smile. I
Yeah.
needed your blood. I needed your sweat. I needed your tears. I needed broken down. I needed angry. I needed bitter. I needed frustrated. I needed burnt out. I needed everything from you at that moment. I needed soul reaped. These are the things that I needed from you. I needed starved. I needed oppressed. I needed angry black people. That's what I needed. Frustrated. I needed people ready to fight. I needed people ready to be revitalized, reshaping their life. That's what I needed. So here we go. We have
I would have never, looking at the Panam, I would have never looked at it that way,
Yeah.
Because it has like a very upbeat and pleasant melody.
Because
to my
of the
recollection.
message it's conveying. You're free. You're emancipated. You could choose your life that you want to lead.
Yes.
Walking for free is done. You can choose your destiny now and fulfill it the way you want it to be. You can choose your mate. Do you understand the consequences that living that type of oppressed life did to our black men? How it destroyed them, how it demoralized them, how it stripped away from their manhood, from their familyhood, from their role as providers. Yeah. Come on. Do you understand what that did to our black women? Not understanding how to be in a relationship anymore because you're just being bedded from this person to that person, whatever time. You were just a breeder. You was just a object of essentials for whatever was needed. You were like a doormat. Do you understand how that translated itself into who we are today and why we as black people fail so much to have the relationship that the Panam dance is foretelling? That Panam dance spoke of what we should have been working so hard to keep. We did. But as Stephie said so well, dilution happened.
Mm.
Values and necessities happen. Um, Playing in of different things that tore away the fabrics. We had it together and we let certain things come in and dilute what we had together. We knew
Mm.
exactly what we had back then, but it was named different back then. It was called different back then. Now today, we hearing things that we had know about already, but we
Correct.
didn't understand it for what it is today. So back to the actors. So we, like I said, we had Rudolph Davis as our instructor. Ilie Coquilas, very important gentleman hailing
Okay.
from Guadeloupe. He was here at the onset of the development of the Panam because he is by his own what you call it, his own rapport, the a Goka player, which is in its own self another story uh
Mm.
telling aspect rooted in our origins that is infused and influenced by again slavery. So again, our story telling again, and
Mm.
Ilie along with other personalities from St. Martin are the ones behind of the Panam, with Ilie being key because he played the beat, he carried the rhythm, he was the heart, you know, he's the heart of the music.
Mm.
And I thinking about Ilie because I had a little talk, Stephie, the other day where we were saying that we need to preserve what Ilie has done because there is physically no one really else on St. Martin, even though this thing has been going on for more than 20 years, that can play the Pana music the way Ilie has been playing it.
Mm.
So that is another something that we need to start preserving because
Yes.
we got it now in our fabric. The Panam is officially our national dance. So now we got to get the music down too. We got to be, again, bringing it and teaching it to our children,
Yes.
incorporating it in our curriculum. So,
Yes.
Ilie, as I said, he is the music behind of that. Then we have the children that played in the roles. We have Justin, Aaron, and Noah. These guys, oh my God, phenomenal. We got some serious actors, boy. I'm telling you, um, they make me work hard, but they are on point. The energy, you know, the dedication, the attitude, you know, the willingness,
Mm.
everything, you know. It's really the camaraderie, the hard work, understanding after a moment like this mean business. You know, it's like
Mm.
we're going to war here for we, you know, we're going to
Yes.
war to
Yes.
tell we story. So those are the children. Then we have and they were dancers as well, acting and dancing. Then we have Sierra, we have Deshawn, wonderful dancer. We have Tasha, those were the dancers. Now we're going over to the actors. We have Soshina Stefan, Anushka Roach, um, Antoine Langsford, Fernando, Teresa. Did I miss anyone? Oh, and
None,
Ananda.
yeah,
Ananda. Ananda Arnell. And
and
then
Tasha.
our impromptu dancer, Madam Stephie Gums herself.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, she's an artist, huh? She know what she
Look at
doing.
them. Look at them.
So, Madam Stephie Gums, I finally get to indirectly throw her in, which she catch
Nice.
on after. But fabulous. She has always been talking to me about when I'm gonna use her. So I use her without forcing her, but she get used.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes. Yes.
nah, I mean, you know, in doing what you're doing, you see something and you see the necessity of it. The impromptu dance that they did, which I felt was very important, was to portray a person that has been voided of everything that they can identify with. And then
Mm.
all of a sudden, this person has to pick up themselves somehow. So somehow, the somehow was the hope and the faith, the strength that you drawn on, that we call we ancestors, because that what we did now. We drew on
Mm.
our ancestors to give us strength. That's what we did. When you
But
speak
wait,
to,
but wait. That sound kind of spooky, no, Melissa.
no,
But
that's
what
what
kind
the
of
people did. The
but
people
what kind
told
of
us
thing
the
is
story.
that?
They
I
drew
didn't learn
on.
that in Sunday school, Melissa.
Well, Sunday school didn't teach it to you, so I tell it to you now.
So there's a reason why Sunday school doesn't teach it, but
Yeah,
let's move
Sunday
on.
Oh,
school teach you what they want you to know.
but hold on, because remember no, remember earlier I asked Stephie in her research, did she come across any African name, terms, practices, whatever have you? And now here you're telling me that my ancestors called upon their ancestors when they needed that
You asked that
extra.
question to Stephie, you didn't ask that question to me.
But you should have jumped in though. You should have jumped in. You
No,
had no
no.
better.
At that
You're too
moment,
intentional.
you gotta leave Steffi be in her intentional world so she doesn't lose trail of thoughts. So I
Uh-huh.
wouldn't interrupt then.
Okay, makes
Howsoever,
sense.
there were aspects here, yeah, of course, I could have jumped in, but I don't believe in doing that. I like to let people
Okay.
speak their thoughts because we tend to lose trail of thoughts.
Makes
Um,
sense.
but I only know this because, like I said, I do what Steffi does, which is go out and ask for oral history. And in the oral history, from, as she said, if one person tell it to you, you hold it for a second
Yes.
person tell it to you, you keep it a little in a book note down, a third person tell it to you, okay, you start to think about, let me put it in alignment. And everyone that I spoke to, as the old people used to say, four people tell it to you, teen no lie, you know, and they always said that they called on their ancestors. You know, they connected in the spiritual world with their ancestors. They went into a meditation and they called for the strength. And that is what helped them to do what they needed to do. They believe that they got their strength. They call on them because of the sufferings, because of all that they've been through, and they gravitated to that center, that core, that gave them what they needed, you know, to deliver themselves, to uproot themselves, to start life over. And that is what Steffi, Soshina, and Ananda in their impromptu dance when slavery was abolished and
Mm.
we're free now. But after that, what do we do? Remember, we were oppressed, suppressed, we were stripped of everything. You didn't know. You didn't know. You were just in a whirlpool. So and then yet you had to come out of this whirlpool and you had to move forward, you know.
Yeah.
So that is what that dance did. That dance that they did,
Mm.
which is, it spoke about their calling on their strength to move forward.
Mm.
You know, they did that dance, and it was, I can't tell you how others saw it, but for me, it moved me in a sense of speaking about calling on a power beyond yourself,
Mm.
because you knew you got to get something done. You alone by yourself cannot do it, so you delved yourself into a world where you know you have to do that. So
And you know what's so powerful about what you said? Because now I'm thinking about Tantanez, you know, because based on the description that you shared, she was a midwife. You said she did with the embalming of
embalming, yeah,
bodies. You said she was familiar with herbs and medicinal
yes,
plants. You said,
she used to
did,
cook for weddings.
did she go to school for these things?
Actually, not that we can tell.
Could she read and write?
not that we know of, because
But let you ask.
in those times, they were schooling up to a certain grade, and then
Age, yeah.
and then um and then sometimes people just felt they didn't need it, and they went to work because life was a struggle, and
Yes.
you had to make a decision. You're going to eat, or you're going to, so they had to make choices. They got married young too, because of those,
Yeah,
how
that's true.
life then was. You got married young,
Yeah.
17, 16. I think you were married already,
Yeah,
so life was
that's correct.
different. you
That
know
is correct. That is, and you see, the reason why I bring this up is to make an attempt once again to show that we did not come to the island empty handed,
mm,
albeit under those oppressive conditions.
mm-hmm,
Because, for example, many of our ancestors had a thorough knowledge of nature, of science, of plants, and even crystals and different metals and so that they could have used as part of their everyday life. You understand? There are some historical accounts which would have told you that they call them witch doctors today, but our healers, they had to go through a training to identify well over 1,000, 2,000 plants and explain what they were good for. You see, and then even some of our ancestors, when they came here, they would have smuggled some seeds, in their hair, right? And then plant these things them in our particular gardens. All right. So and that's what I love about these stories, because while it anchors me to this particular space, it gives me clues, of which civilization I am part of on the continent. You see? And that way, many of us will think that what we're doing, this is the first time we're doing it, but only people who are not familiar with history will say this is a brand new thing. It's like you telling your grandparents about something, and they're like, yo, I've been on this earth for so long, I see that happen 10 times. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I love about these stories, is that connection. I read a very insightful book. It's called the Cul-de-sac People, right, by Mr. Vocus, I believe it, Mr. Vocus it is, and I looked and I saw, my family's title, and I saw that one of our ancestors was from Ghana, and then I'm learning that another part of my ancestry probably come from the Congo. So it locates you. You see, it locates you in a particular space and time. And then we can see the historical continuity. I think that's so beautiful. But what I want you to hammer on, right? Because I give all your time. I give all your time to talk and express yourself. But what I
yeah,
want you to hammer on is some of those the creativity of our people after they took their freedom. Because we talked about surviving. We talked about that they didn't have no money, they had to start over. But how did they get their food? How did they cook? How did they preserve meats? And there's a reason I'm asking these questions. Okay, because I'm going to tie it in to what you and Stephie said earlier about using these values in our day-to-day living today. But tell us about that, about our clothes and the foods we ate and why we ate certain foods. I'm being disgusting now.
Well, I don't know how much in details you want us to go.
Okay.
I would just say that we used to plant way more than than we do. That most of our food was homegrown, and that we were even able to export our food because our livestock, our beef, was renowned throughout the Caribbean region.
yep,
Um, and you know, I stopped eating meat like 10 years ago, and people would be like, "But you're black and you don't eat chicken?" And like, you know, my people, the heritage of my people is not eating chicken, is
Mm,
making delicious meals with whatever they're given. And so, even if you give me the most random edible leaf, I will make it tasty because my people, have this creativity to know how to make delicious food, how and to make beauty even in dirt. So
Thank
that's
you.
what I take from many people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. I love
Um,
that.
I would love to say that
Melissa, you want to laugh because I don't eat meat?
not at all, not at all. I am so not laughing
Melissa,
because
I know you.
I I I am not laughing. You don't have to eat meat, but that wasn't what I was gonna say though. You see how she like to pick trouble with me. I am not laughing at her, you know. She don't eat meat, but I eat saltfish and smoked herring and all those different things. I eat everything. I'm a lover of food. I don't have
Mm.
no particular qualms with
You don't
anything.
discriminate.
No, I don't discriminate, but I don't fancy everything, you know.
Okay.
I don't fancy everything. Um I just believe in eating in necessity. What you eat is because you need it. If you don't need it, you don't eat it, you know?
Yeah.
I just love food. That's all. What is interesting I would like to say, and unfortunately just now I have to
Yeah,
leave
I
you.
know. We're gonna wrap up. We're gonna wrap up. You see
Um
how fast 2 hours went?
Well, luckily for you, the appointment, and for us, the appointment that I had, they actually contacted me while we were talking.
Okay.
And I was trying to scribble while we were speaking at the same time, scribble
Okay.
on things fast and try to work with the person. So they was nice enough to allow me to scribble what they needed
Okay.
to say. So,
Good, good.
what I would like to say is that I had an interesting conversation with a child the other day. He's from a Hispanic uh,
Background,
island,
heritage.
but he was protestingly saying he is not Spanish. You know, why are you calling me Spanish? He said, and my people are from X, and I'm like, I am not discrediting where your people are from. I said, I'm just trying to tell you that history. You are speaking geography, and I'm speaking history. History says that your people were influenced because of a different continent of people. Whether you like it or not, your people were influenced. And he argued with me, no, 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 we are not Spanish. That I said, you don't have to be Spanish. I'm not telling you to identify yourself as Spanish. I'm just telling you that whether you like it or not, history says you were influenced by the Spanish. Just like history says that we were brought here via our ancestors. We didn't born where our ancestors descended from, but we took the journey, whatever it was, and we came here, and we were influenced after we came here, and the generation who came here were influenced by other set of people. And hence why we are a patchwork of culture in the Caribbean. So I had to literally go and pull up the information to show him that, yes, you were influenced, your people before were influenced by the Spaniards, you know, because the bigger continents, that what they did, you know, they were territorial, they had to do what they had to do. We know the stories. And I came to realize that I don't like to use the word trauma, but unfortunately, is historical trauma. Whatever you went through as a people make you just want to cut out anything that you have to, that will stimulate a trauma in you. So whatever he was told, he did not want to be affiliated with that trauma. And I understood that and I let it be. But because we had that conversation, it looked like he couldn't let it go. He wanted to win the argument that he is not Spanish. But when there was cultural extravaganza day, he fell under the Hispanic group. Because why? History says you were influenced by the Spanish, by the Spaniards. So whether you like it, you don't like it, there was your influence. History says whether we don't want to talk about slavery today, whether we don't want to talk about it tomorrow, whether we want to lay down and ignore it, why is it that we want to forget something so badly that other people capitalizing on?
The pain.
Why is it we want to forget something so badly that every day we are reminded of? How can you forget something when somebody reminding you of it every day? So the best way to deal with your fear is to face it and to utilize your fear to build the bridge that you need to help you cross to the other side.
Let me ask you a question. Why do you use the word influence?
Influence is used because before I met you, I didn't know about you. I didn't know the way you spoke. I didn't know the way you live. I didn't know anything about you. But when you came into my life, you influenced me with your language, with your way of living, your styles. You influenced. And that's what influence means in
Oh,
history.
okay.
We were
Okay.
influenced by our colonizers. Whether we wanted to or not, they influenced our way of living to many degrees, you know? And this is what I was exchanging with the student at the time. I said, I am not saying you have to identify with the Spaniards. I'm saying that up in a point of in history, you were influenced by them because the language you speak, where did it originated from? Partly from them. So you were influenced. A part of what they have became a part of you.
Okay.
Whether you want to say yes or no, it's up to you how you want to see yourself going forward. But at some point in time, you will have to acknowledge that just like how we could say what we want, we got a Spanish foot. Because why? At some point in time, history said they were here.
Okay.
You know?
Because again, just in my mind, when you say influence, I'm just hearing colonialism. You understand? Because everything what you just described there is a result of colonialism.
So influence is a nice word.
It's a very nice word.
Yeah, it's a
You
friendly
understand?
word.
It's a
Remember, you're
very
speaking to
diplomatic
children.
word.
You're speaking to children. And
Well, our children nowadays is very advanced, so
yeah,
they're very advanced. So
you're
I think if
speaking
you
to
had said
children.
colonialism, or even imperialism, they would have known exactly what you're talking about. But that's just my humble opinion.
Yeah.
You
In
know?
in 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 working with children, you tend to gravitate to words that they can understand quicker.
True.
Okay?
True. True.
When you're speaking to people who are knowledgeable, you speak in different contexts. You
Yeah.
know? Now, usually, I keep my context very simple. I tend
Okay.
not to get into too much deep uh high jargons just to sound like I know what I am saying. I
Okay.
tend to stray away from that. I more
Okay.
keep the simpler terms when I'm dealing with my students. If there's a word that they need to know because it is of an educational awareness, I
Mm-hmm.
use it. So if I need to
Okay.
tell them capitalism, I tell it to them. If I want
Yeah.
to tell them
Okay.
colonizing, I tell it to them. But if it's not necessary, I stick to simple terms that they can
Okay.
understand. And influence is by means a great way of explaining a lot of what is happening to us. A lot of things influence our lives, but I was talking about history,
Mm.
and I told him I'm not talking geography. Geography, you are
I
who you
get
are.
you.
But history, that's a whole different ball game right there, That's
Okay.
a lot of us would like to not identify with slavery, but we were influenced by it. Everything we do is based off of that colonizing, that
Experience.
that
Yeah.
that So at the end
Okay.
of the day, coming back to what you said, I believe that people like writers like Stephie is doing exactly what you said, because within the story she did highlight how we went about certain things. She did tie those things in as much as she can, you know However, when you're doing script, you don't want to stray all over the place because you will tend to lose the
Lose, yeah.
essence. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, ladies, it's now 9:15. We've been at it for about 2 hours and change, and I did warn you from the beginning. I did warn you and say, normally it's about 60 minutes, but depends on how sweet the conversation go. It can go well beyond, the perimeters. But I enjoyed this conversation so much, So I know if I enjoy this conversation, I am going to love that performance. So I'm going to ask again because I asked the first time and I get no answer. So I'm going to ask again to be certain. Okay. Is there a recording? Can it be purchased? And if so, how much it costs and where can it be purchased? Or who I have to beg or bribe? Let me make it plain. Who I have to beg or bribe to get a copy of the thing?
Well, you see, you are referring to two types of systems, to one autocratic system or dictatorial system where you would have to bribe, and one capitalistic system where you would have to pay.
I
But
said beg to no. I said beg to, eh?
you said beg to,
I
maybe
said
there's
beg.
a
I said
dictatorial
beg or
system
bribe.
as well. But our press did a good job in recording the play. Unfortunately, they didn't have the best angle, but Radio St. Martin was there for the whole event, and so you have a recording on their Facebook page.
Okay.
I don't know if any official recording was done.
Okay.
However, I do hope that I can one day publish all the plays that I've written for now, because I think that even though some people feel like it's old school and that a video would be enough, I feel like having a book is very much what would make it to the time capsule that I was referring to. And so my hope is that these plays can be played by school children, theater companies from, yes, St. Martin, but also why not Trinidad and Barbados and Haiti and Benin and Kenya and I don't know where else. So yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, ladies, this brings us to the end, or rather, we are going to adjourn because I definitely would love to have the both of you again to continue this conversation. Oh, by the way, you talked about there was a thesis on the Panam. I for one would love to secure a copy, read it, or
You
just
will have
find a way
to
to.
check with Clara Reyes. She was the one who did the thesis on the Panam.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to beg or bribe Clara Reyes.
There you go.
No, but because I love the perspective you shared, when it comes to that particular dance. You see, of course, we know the dance came out of struggle, but to be able to tease out, those stories from the dance, I think is very interesting, So Stephie, please remind us once again of your various websites, media pages. If someone wants to get in contact with you to support or to participate, how can they do so?
The easiest way to reach out to me is on Facebook, on Instagram via On This Day in St. Martin in full on Facebook, On This Day in St. Martin, and on Instagram, On This Day SXM.
And how do you spell St. Martin?
In general or in that context?
According to your Facebook page.
Okay, st.martin.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. Thank you so much. And do you have any closing words for the viewers?
Well, I hope they enjoyed this conversation and they are grateful to you, Bakari, as I am as well, for giving us this space to have this conversation, making it available, because I am fortunate enough to be part of many great conversations, but not a lot of them are recorded. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to have this conversation in a recorded fashion that is now available to the people. I'm not someone who shares like on social media the way I think. So it's really when people get me on recorded conversation that they understand more of the like why I do what I do. So thank
Yes.
you for this opportunity.
You're
And of
most
course,
welcome.
thank you, Melissa, for being a good sparring partner on these cultural projects. It's always fun to work with her, always fun to harass her while we work because, like, being in a community of artists is really fun. And, when you get out of the projects, you're like, man, I wish we could go to a rehearsal next Tuesday as well because we have so much fun when we are
Mm,
this creative community working on these projects. It can be stressful, but it's also a lot of fun.
wonderful.
Thank
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Melissa, your closing remarks, please.
Definitely, I want to thank you, Bakari, for having us as well, and for allowing your audience to learn more about one young poet, Melissa Fleming, and what my platform offers, and definitely my association as well, APREN, what we stand for, and we love doing these collaborative works with Stephie, because again, she aligns with our ideals and our general concept about promoting culture, heritage, tradition, and keeping our people educated with all of the different tangible mediums that we can bring to them. So again, thank you, and I'm always open for these type of discussion. I love to discuss things that matters to us as a people, that binds us as a people, in hopes to get a better clarity and understanding on how we can, as we say, betterfy ourselves, and coexist, and live a life that, not only about worrying about attacking each other, but more about building each other. We imperfect, but we need to have an understanding that indeed we need each other as a ring, a chain, a network to grow ourselves and progress forward. So I'm hoping that your audience do enjoy this wonderful discussion that you gave us here on your space, and look forward to hearing any comments that you want to share back with us.
Of course.
Like Stephie
And
say, I don't always get to do this
okay,
type of uh, highlighting of what I do all often. So it's a pleasure.
nice. And once again, please remind us of the radio program that you are part of, the days and the times and the station.
Okay, so you can join into our program either via my Facebook page, which is One Young Poet. If you go on One Young Poet, you will definitely find me, and of course, you'll always see my name pop up behind of it too, Melissa Fleming.
Okay.
Or you can go on Youth Radio page, which is YR Youth Radio 92.5 FM. They also have their Facebook page, and our program is called Sandbox Tree. It's a culture program where we're in characters, and I am Tulazan, and my co-star is Thomas. And Tulazan and Thomas, we are acting as a married couple who just we sit around in our yard under our sandbox tree, and we are dropping the leaves of what we would call, like, back in the time, the melee, and but the melee is the news of what going on, the happenings in the country. So we speak on all issues: education, politics, sports, everything that has to do with our home and our people, and we try to bring it through a theatrical sense with the characters. So it's really nice to see when we have those responses from our audience. So it's great. So you guys can always tune in. Like I said,
The
you
time?
can find us
The
every
time?
day except for Wednesdays and on the weekend from 4 to 5 p.m.
Okay.
We come on Simatin time, 4 to 5 p.m. Not local and Eastern, and
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
local only, not Eastern and Western
I
stories,
got you.
but
I got
Simatin time 4 p.m. So the great thing is
okay.
that once you go on my page, even if you missed the program, you can always go on my page, One Young Poet, Melissa Fleming, and you will find all of my streams right there. You can click back on them, and hopefully when I upgrade myself to podcasting like you guys. I just don't have the time to do podcasts. But hopefully I'll get around to it. And
You
then
will. You
you can
will.
do
You will.
that.
You will. You will. All
I
right.
hope. Yeah, me say hopefully.
No, no, but you will. No, listen. One thing I have learned, right? When you want to do something, you
Yeah,
will become the most resourceful person in the room.
I know that.
And you're going
Yeah,
to commit yourself, you're going to put yourself to the tutorials, you're going to harass people to learn so that you will be able to accomplish this
exactly.
particular goal. So that's what I said. I am confident that by this time next year, I'll be getting an invitation
Uh,
from one young poet to come on and have a reasoning about something.
I know, right?
I am that confident. Yeah, man, I'm going to claim it from now, you know. But
Well, we
ladies,
gonna see. We gonna speak it
okay.
into life.
Exactly, exactly. But ladies, I truly want to
Thank
thank you
you.
for your time, for
Yeah.
your expertise, for your perspectives. I mean, this is very, very inspiring. I mean, right now, I have enough energy to go in my library, pull up books from Daniela Jeffrey and all of them just to revisit certain information. You understand? That's the feeling I am going to walk. That's my big takeaway. You understand? And I'm telling you, I promise you, once I get that recording of the event, I am going to play it at the community center for our people, and I'm going to invite them for them to come and see it. So once that
You
is
can
rolling out,
invite us to perform the play. Find a sponsor, because we do respect our actors and their time. So we always want to make sure that they are honored.
compensated, and rightfully so.
Yes.
We'll talk about that off
Why
the
do
air.
you want the video when you can have the real thing?
I like that. I like your sales pitch. I like your sales
Anyway,
pitch.
guys, I gotta go.
Okay, no
See
problem.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
because we're going to log off. All right. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Another impactful conversation. We do hope that you are inspired to go and revisit not only St. Martin's history, but also finding your way of preserving it and sharing it with the public. Just remember that on Sunday, we are back at it. We have a very great program lined up for you. We'll be having Mr. Renate Bryson, and he'll be sharing his views about the recently installed right-wing government in The Hague and what it might mean for St. Martin. So please put a pin in your agenda and join us on this coming Sunday at 5 p.m. And from all of us here at Unity and Solidarity TV, thank you so much for joining us. And I leave you in the prophetic words of the most honorable, right and excellent Marcus Messiah Garvey. Up, you mighty people, you can accomplish what you will. One God, one aim, one destiny. Have a pleasant evening, Father, and good night, everyone.